Do you like to breathe? Enjoy having a pulse? If you said yes to either of those, you might want to stay out of these cities. What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to The World According to Briggs and this year's installment of U.S. cities with the highest involuntary dirt nap rate. In other words, homicide rate. The good news about this year's list is the murder rate across the United States has dropped 2 years in a row, according to the FBI. The violent crime rate is now lower than it's been in the last 30 years. According to the Global Peace Index in 2020, the United States was ranked 128th in the list of safest countries in the world. 128, that's not good. In 2020, the United States had a rate of 5.0 homicides per every 100,000 residents. Now in this list today, we're only looking at the rate of cities with over 100,000 residents. I mean, you could argue that some of these smaller cities have a higher rate, but it's, we're just sticking with over 100,000. If this video does good, we'll do below 100,000 next, or next week. Give you a little heads up, some of the cities you might think should be on this list aren't. For example, the most populous city in the United States is New York City, and it has a population of 8.6 million people. But with just over 300 murders and a murder rate of 3.8 in 2020, it doesn't even make the top 50. And before you ask, Chicago was 16th. All right, let's take a look at what we got. Number 10, Shreveport, Louisiana. It's hot, humid, and you run a higher than average chance of going to the land of the big sleep at the hands of another in Shreveport, Louisiana. We just did a worst states in the United States list last week, and you will see in this video why Louisiana took and earned the number 1 spot. Shreveport has a murder rate of 22.3 murders per every 100,000 residents. Violent crime overall has dropped 8% since 2018, but they still have a violent crime rate that is 105% higher than the national average. That's not just crime rate, that's violent crime rate. Number 9, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The city of brotherly love ain't. I guess someone got their signals crossed, thought brotherly love included the exchange of gunfire. Almost 500 residents took the involuntary dirt nap in Philly in 2020, giving them a homicide rate of 22.8. That is 22.8 people for every 100,000 residents aren't with us anymore because someone decided to get rid of them. Their violent crime rate is 140% higher than the national average. Honestly, you hear about all these cities, and I knew they weren't like the best city. They got some great things, don't get me wrong, and great people. And I know they just have some rough spots with a lot of violence going on. I didn't know they'd make this list. Number 8, Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. has been on this list more years than it hasn't since the 1970s. There were 198 homicides in D.C. in 2020, and a vast majority were due to gun violence. 198 is about 30 more than they had in 2019, but if you go all the way back to their record-setting year of 1991, where they had 482 murders, they were just killing it that year. Washington, D.C. has the 8th highest murder rate in the country with 23.5 murders per every 100,000 residents. They have so many unreported shootings, the police have begun using shot spotter technology that detects gunshots. Nobody has to call them in anymore. They could just pick them up. But I mean, it's good, I guess. Their violent crime rate is 158% higher than the national average. Number 7, Memphis, Tennessee. Now, I've done more than a few negative videos about Tennessee. The locals always want to argue the stats and my opinions about the state, which is fair, I understand. One thing that rarely happens is them putting up much of a fight when it comes to Memphis. Memphis to Tennessee is like a nice church-going family that has a middle child who decided to become a Satanist. They love that middle child, but they sure wish he would get his crap together. Memphis, Tennessee has a murder rate of 29.2 per every 100,000 residents. That was in 2020. Now listen to this. Memphis had 191 homicides in 2019. There were over 400 homicides in the state of Tennessee in 2019. That means almost half the homicides occurred in Memphis. In 2020, they really upped their game, and Memphis had 289 murders. And get this, 80 interstate shootings, 80 of them. Their violent crime rate is 400% higher than the national average. Number 6, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Hey look, Louisiana, didn't see that one coming at all. Baton Rouge is our second trip out of 3 to the Pelican State, and it has the 6th largest murder rate in the United States. Louisiana's capital city has a murder rate of 33.5 for every 100,000 residents. Luckily, the city's seen consecutive years with decreasing murder rates, but they still suck. Their violent crime rate is 147% higher than the national average. Bravo, Baton Rouge. You're really keeping it together there. I mean, honestly, congratulations on lowering your murder rate. Number 5, Dayton, Ohio. In the past, I was foolishly under the impression that Dayton, Ohio was another sleepy small city in Ohio. I mean, I've been to Columbus and it's nice for the most part. Dayton's right down the road, just a couple small towns in between there. Well, actually Springfield's kind of big, but you get the idea. Dayton's nothing like Columbus. With a murder rate of 34.2 per every 100,000 residents, Dayton has achieved the 5th highest murder rate in the U.S. Even though other Ohio cities' violent crime rates have been going down, like in Cleveland and Cincinnati, it's just in recent years. Dayton, I guess, has decided to blaze their own trail and gone the other direction. Their violent crime rate is 154% higher than the national average. Now, just to clarify something on this one, we're ranking these by the actual homicide or murder rate per every 100,000. So sometimes the violent crime rate, which encompasses all forms of violent crime, it might be higher than the last one on the list or things like that. We're just ranking by the homicide and murder rate. I tell you that because I know there's going to be questions. Number 4, New Orleans. And at number 4, we have our final Louisiana city, New Orleans. New Orleans has been on this list since forever, and they're always hovering around the top 5, but never the number 1 spot. Sort of like the New Orleans Saints have been since the 2010 Super Bowl. Always almost there, but never quite pulling it off. New Orleans has the 4th highest murder rate in the U.S. for the 3rd year in a row. The city had been seeing a reduction in its murder rate, but that kind of ended in 2019, started going up again. The murder rate in New Orleans is 30 per every 100,000 residents, and their violent crime rate is 202% higher than the national average. The good news is, if you get croaked in New Orleans, they might hook you up with one of those jazz funerals. But they get so many people killed there, I mean, they might be really busy and you might end up with one of those Bavarian Oompa bands. Number 3, Detroit, Michigan. Hey look, it's our old friend Detroit. He's a regular here. Whenever we do a negative video, Detroit makes an appearance. Doesn't matter what the subject is. If it's negative, they show up. Now I've started to look at Detroit a little differently over the last few years. Sort of the same way I now look at West Virginia. These are 2 locations that have been dealt really bad hands over the years, and they're working their way back. West Virginia's got some bad hands dealt to them with the loss of the coal mining jobs, and then they're hit with the opioid crisis. Detroit got nailed with the loss of the auto industry. And stop typing. They still have auto industry jobs, just nothing near what they had 40 years ago. The good news is, I feel, personally, that they have both turned the corner and they're working their way back. They just have a very long way to go. For proof of that, take a look at Detroit's downtown. It's really nice down there. They just need to fix the rest of that city where most of these bad stats come from. Detroit, Michigan has the 3rd highest murder rate in the United States with 40.4 per 100,000 residents. Yeah, that's pretty high. And their violent crime rate is 418% higher than the national average. It is not safe there. Downtown's a different city almost at this point. The rest of Detroit, I wouldn't say the rest, but a majority of Detroit should be avoided. Give it another decade or so, it might be a different story. The people are decent most of the time. Number 2, Baltimore, Maryland. Baltimore, Maryland is slowly becoming another tech hotspot, and gentrification is in full swing, but they still have some really scary places. Baltimore, Maryland has a murder rate of 57 per 100,000 people, and that's the 2nd highest in the US. The crime and the gangs here are legendary, and that is not a good thing. I think it will and has slowed down the city's turnaround in bigger ways than city officials would like to admit. Their violent crime rate is 390% higher than the national average. Yeah, I'm not even kidding. 390. That's not the worst on this list, but it's pretty scary. And before we get to number 1, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and also don't forget about our other channel, On This Day. There's a link down below. Watch some of the videos. We bring them out as often as we can, usually about 5 times a week. Watch some of the old videos. They're pretty good. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, St. Louis, Missouri. Yep, St. Louis is back on the list. Like Detroit, it always seems to show up on negative videos. There are some areas in St. Louis that have the same murder rate as a Walking Dead episode. St. Louis, Missouri has the highest murder rate in the United States with 60.9 murders for every 100,000 residents, and they have a violent crime rate that's 408% higher than the national average. What's really alarming about those numbers? They aren't even the most depressing crime stats in that metro area. Across the river in East St. Louis, they have a murder rate that is 137 for every 100,000 residents. Yeah, more than double what St. Louis has. But they're under 100,000 residents, so we didn't put them on this list. If we do one for lower, they'll definitely be on it. All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. Thanks for watching the video. Have a great day and be nice to each other.